Wait, how do you share this though? Come on. Welcome everyone. I'm here. I'm waiting for our guest to show up. As soon as she shows, we will be doing the interview. Hi, Dirty Rotten. Hello, Deidre. Hi, Narrow Trigger. As I said, I'm just waiting for our guest to show up. As soon as she shows up, we'll start. So how was everybody's week while we're waiting? Hello, West Haven, always and forever. Guys, if you could share this out, that would be awesome. Hey, Leah and Ladybug, how are you, sweetheart? My day is doing good, Deidre. I'm just waiting for our guest. She knows it was supposed to be at 7 Central. I hope she comes in soon. If she doesn't, I'm just going to make this an open panel. Guys, I have to step out of the room for a minute. I will be right back. I just have to get my phone so I can go text her and let her know that we're up and running and waiting on her. So I'll be right back. Okay, guys, out of the room. I just sent her a text. I'm waiting on her. Let me plug the phone in here. So I can get a reply back. All right, R5, I'm going to put the link in for you. Hold on a moment. Gonna do this one because I don't like the other one. Welcome, R5.
Hello, hello. I'm gonna let you know up front, DiGeorge, DiGeorge.
Okay, I'm not sure how to spell it. Finding it was not easy.
That's how I saw that right away. I'm like, it's not spelled right.
Everybody, I'd like to introduce our guest. Our guest is Krystal. We all know her from R5 Adventures, and we're going to be doing the interview on DiGeorge syndrome and what it's like to raise a child with DiGeorge. So saying that, let's get started with the interview. Krystal, can you tell everybody kind of what DiGeorge syndrome is?
Well, DiGeorge syndrome is a deletion on the 22nd chromosome. It has over 200 medical possibilities, which just a short rundown, because I'm not going to run all of them down. There's a lot of delays in learning. There's a lot of speech delays. There's a lot of developmental delays. There's heart conditions, and there is a lot of mental health issues such as schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, OCD, and autism. There's just a lot of stuff to do with mental health in DiGeorge, but there's also just a lot of health issues as well as a compromised immune system. Like I said, there's over 200 possibilities, so I'm not going through all of them.
That's a lot. I mean, for any type of disorder, I would say DiGeorge has the most with it, because a lot of them that I have studied doesn't even have nearly as bad. Not even autism. I mean, autism is a wide spectrum, but it seems like DiGeorge just basically entitles everything.
Well, that's why it's so misdiagnosed. A lot of doctors think it's failure to thrive. They think it's autism. They think it's other stuff because they're not narrowing it down to it's actually being caused by one deletion.
Can you tell us what some of the common issues associated with DiGeorge are?
The most common is the developmental delays and speech delays. Heart conditions are almost always present, whether it's a heart murmur, a aortic arch, Telly of Felu. I can probably say that completely wrong because I never say it right. Those are common, as well as the behavioral end of things. Autism is very common to be associated with DiGeorge.
Okay, and can you tell us what some of the developmental issues are with it?
They don't tend to walk as soon. They tend to just be behind in school. Math is one of their subjects they tend to be very behind in. Reading as well. Speech, I kind of put that into developmental as well, but speech is one of the things they are very delayed with, which is part of the reason they're behind on everything else.
Is there any way that they can detect DiGeorge before a baby's born?
They have that in the amnio fluids. They can check for DeGeorge, but that's not always 100% with any of the detections for anything they're detecting. They've detected Down syndrome when the child didn't have Down syndrome. So yes, there's a way they can detect it in the fluids, but it's not, I wouldn't say it's a reliable way.
So it's basically like most other mental illnesses, except for like Down syndrome, where you can't really tell until after the child is born.
There's certain little things that might pinpoint it, like if they notice some of the heart conditions, they might say, well, this baby looks like it could have George syndrome. They might test the fluids, and if the fluids come back positive, then yeah, you're going to lean towards there's a very high likelihood. Basically, with that fluid test, yeah, you can get a positive reading, but it's more of a, there's a likelihood, there's a very high likelihood, but that doesn't mean you're going to have a baby with that issue.
Do they test for DiGeorge often, or is that something that you basically um, should think about asking if you have any concerns? I mean, is it like an automatic test or?
When my son was diagnosed, he was 3 years old. They were not testing for DeGeorge syndrome at that time, um, at birth, nor really when you're pregnant. They could test for it, but you had to actually request it. Um, Now in recent years, they are testing at birth all babies that are being born for DeGeorge syndrome. So it's getting detected a lot more frequently now than it was 10 years ago.
Which is good. It's always good to catch things, in the early stages. So, as a parent, you can plan better for it.
Yeah, it's
Um,
something that they don't automatically test back when my son was younger. That was something you actually had to have a reason to be testing for it. He got tested because of a fluke coincidence with his heart.
yeah, with all my kids, I don't remember them getting tested for anything like that. I know my boys, they were all considered developmentally delayed. And they all have learning disabilities and stuff. And when my youngest son Joshua was born, I don't think they even still tested him with that. Um, they just said that he had spina bifida, um, and that he couldn't walk, talk, or anything. He couldn't vocalize. And they told us that he was going to be permanently in a wheelchair, not being able to talk or anything or even feed himself. Um, which they were wrong. He got adopted when he was 6 because we had to give him up, because we weren't trained to take care of a child, that needy like they had said he was going to be, you know. Um, and they couldn't get him adopted out, I guess, until he was 6, and that's when he just started learning how to walk and talk. So,
My son didn't talk until he was about 6 or 7 years old. That's when he started saying some words. He started walking when he was probably about 2, but he was delayed with walking as well. Spina bifida is part of DeGeorge. That is one of the other symptoms.
yeah, when my husband was in Vietnam, the chemicals that he was around, the Agent Orange, caused a lot of Dutch kids to have birth defects. And, they never ask when you have a child. I think all doctors, should get a family history, when a person goes in, so they know what to test for. You know what I'm saying? Um, because, like I said, spina bifida, um, developmentally delayed. A lot of that also is associated with Agent Orange, because somehow the chemical enters and alters a lot of that, and causes birth defects. Can you tell us some of the challenges that you face as a parent raising a child that has DiGeorge syndrome?
Well, at first, the challenges were trying to find the specialist for him, trying to get him to all the doctor's appointments because there's a lot of doctors. When he first was diagnosed, his health was poorer than it is now. He got sick very easily, so holding a job is almost impossible because he got sick. I couldn't bring him to a babysitter. I had to be able to be home with him. I had to be able to bring him to all of his appointments because at first, when he was diagnosed, we had probably 4 different appointments every week, some of which were a 2-hour drive one way. So that was a challenge. Now it's more just being an advocate. Because a lot of the doctors do not know what DiGeorge syndrome is. It is not a very studied syndrome. You have to go to a lot of specialists and for like children's hospitals to actually have people that know what it is. So when you're dealing with stuff that's getting tested because of DiGeorge syndrome or things that have to be done, such as calcium levels before and after surgery, you always have to check that with the DiGeorge child. A doctor that doesn't understand DiGeorge would not check calcium levels before and after surgery. So you have to be able to advocate for them. You have to be prepared to kind of almost tell the doctor what they're going to do, even though they don't agree with you always because they don't think there's a reason to do it. So it's a lot of work on the advocating end, going to the schools and advocating for the needs that he has at school, what you want him to have because it's something that's going to help him. They don't always provide that. You sometimes have to fight with the schools to actually get that. Being an advocate is a lot of work when your child starts getting a little bit older. The initial shock is a lot, but the after effects of the advocating and the fears of what you're looking at in the future when you're not there to help them.
Exactly. I remember going through that myself when I was diagnosed with RP, which is retinitis pigmentosa, which a lot of we're still trying to figure out where that came from because it's supposed to be hereditary, but it doesn't show up with anybody in my family. My mom, my dad, my grandparents, my great grandparents, but yet I was diagnosed with it when I was in high school. And at that time, I would say it was a lot like the George because it wasn't barely known yet a lot about it. And like I said, I didn't get diagnosed with that until I was in high school. And it was heck for me through growing up through high school with it, you know. I was in special ed all the way from elementary all the way through high school. The other kids hated me because I'd have to be in the front row seat and still walk up to the blackboard. So I understand, you know, the frustration of it not being that well known yet. Um, what are some of the challenges that your son faces on a day-to-day basis with his DiGeorge?
I think his biggest challenge is communication. His speech is still very much delayed for an 11-year-old. He still speaks about where like maybe a 3-year-old would be speaking. He doesn't have full complete sentences. He doesn't say words clearly. So when you talk to him or he tries to communicate with you, you're constantly asking him what or to repeat himself, and that does frustrate him. And it also makes it harder for him to make those friendships because a lot of the kids don't understand him, so they just kind of won't talk to him, won't interact with him because they don't understand what he's saying, so they'd rather not bother. So his communication is definitely his biggest issue that he deals with.
That must frustrate him a lot when he's trying to communicate and people don't understand him. Must be very frustrating for him.
Even back when he didn't speak much, he learned how to communicate with his hands very well. He learned how to kind of body language and hands to communicate with the words he did say, but it's still hard to understand him sometimes. Like he has to be close to me for me to fully understand what he's trying to get through. And there's still times I still don't know what he's saying.
Okay. Is there anything that you would like to tell the people in chat and anybody that's watching this about the George that we haven't covered?
I think most of the stuff was covered. Like I said, there's so many different aspects to DeGeorge. It's such a broad spectrum syndrome that it's hard to really cover the whole thing in any short length of time. It would be a very long length of time. But it is something that it's an invisible syndrome. When you look at a child with DeGeorge, you don't see it. Down syndrome, you see right away. DeGeorge, you don't. Um, so you do get a lot of looks when your child is in public and they're having a meltdown and they're having issues and they're having a meltdown because they can't communicate. You get a lot of looks because it just looks like a child that's not been raised and disciplined and taught to respect you. So the biggest thing I'm going to say is with any child, I say it with any child just because there's so many things that the child could have going on with them that's invisible to the naked eye. Don't judge a parent when they're out with their child. If the child is having a meltdown, let them handle it the way they know how to. I've had so many people in line at a store when my child's in the cart crying, throwing a fit, trying to hit me, because it does happen, where I'm just calmly talking to him and trying to talk him down, and someone has the nerve to go, well, if you just beat his butt, he would stop. Not always true. That will escalate the problem 90% of the time with children with stuff like this going on. So it's just
Exactly.
best way is mind your own, let them deal with it unless you can offer a very helpful hand. If you understand what's going on, you can try to help calm the child by talking to them. Don't interrupt, don't come in with your 2 cents. Let us deal with it.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important for everybody to see with their heart and not their eyes. Because when they see with their eyes, that's exactly what happens. They don't know what's going on and they're going by what they see. And they, a lot of times hurt the situation instead of helping it.
Well, it's
And
going to,
when people get older, where they're not even a child, because I know people with the George still have a long lifespan, but they're still going to suffer the problems from it, even into their adulthood.
when it goes both ways as being a family member. If your family member has a child with special needs or your friend has a child with special needs, don't exclude them because this is going to be hard on you to deal with the child that might have some issues. You know how many family members will not have me to their house because my son is too much work? 90% of the time, if you give him like his tablet or something, he'll sit and play a game for hours quietly in the corner. He won't cause trouble, but they still don't want him there because he's special needs and he's too much work. So just if even if it's a family or friend, I'm going to say it on my end. When you don't have anyone really to turn to sometimes, you get all these people excluding you because your child's too hard. It gets lonely. It does get lonely.
Yes, when I remember going through that, even with my husband, when he had seizures from his brain tumor, before we found out that it was a brain tumor causing them, we went over to a friend's house and he had a seizure. He didn't break anything, because I knew what to do and everything. But after that seizure, she did exactly that. She's like, no, I don't want you over the house no more. And it really made him feel like he didn't want to live no more. And this is as an adult, So if people don't realize the things they say and do, you either lift somebody up or they could be that last straw that breaks the camel's back to make somebody take their own life. And it's
Oh yeah.
such a shame that people don't see, it's like my channel. I know I don't get a lot of views, but I feel everything that I cover is important because there is so much out there. And I've seen it going on with my own kids. All my kids are special needs. When I went to visit my boys, their own cousin had the gall to look at me and say, if you knew there was a chance for your kids to come out handicapped like this, why did you keep having kids? And if it wasn't in her house and my boys weren't there, I probably would have smacked her. Because in my eyes, that's like saying, well, because your kids aren't, if they're not perfect in society's eyes, they don't deserve to live, is basically the message I got from her.
Yeah.
And I mean, if I felt bad, and I'm not the one, that has some problems, but she said it right in front of my boys. So yeah, I could imagine what they felt like, because it's like, well, what's wrong with us, And people don't realize just how much, even joking with somebody, what we may think is funny may not be funny to them if it deals with what they're going through. So what we may think is a joke is really hurtful to them. And a lot of people don't think like that. It's like, oh, well, they know I'm joking. They know I'm not serious. No, they're hurting. That you could even joke about something like that.
Oh, I
Okay,
agree.
go ahead.
I was just saying I agree. Like people don't realize, at the end of the day, you don't know what anyone's going through. Just be kind. That's just the best way to put it. At the end of the day, you have no clue what anyone is going through. They may look happy on the outside. They may look like there's nothing wrong, but everyone's got their own demons they're fighting. Just be kind.
Exactly. Because there's nobody on this planet that's so-called perfect in any shape, form, way, or matter. We all have our flaws, and we're not put here to judge. At this time, I like to take time to give the chat a chance to ask Crystal any questions they may have about the George. So if anybody in the chat has any questions for Crystal, just put them in the chat. She can read the chat as well. So feel free to ask her any questions you may have.
I know I've been saying hi to you guys in the chat as you guys are coming in. What is the best app for going live? Uh, Stubbs, I use StreamYards or OBS. But no, it's along those same form of would you, like you were saying, would you learn if you knew you're going to have a child with a special needs and the risk of a possibility? To answer that question simply, I'm going to say on my end, my nephew was diagnosed with cystic fibrosis at birth, pretty much. We proceeded to have 3 children, and neither me nor my husband did get tested. We couldn't afford to get tested. It was too expensive. So there was that chance that we would have had 3 children that had cystic fibrosis. Cystic fibrosis is deadly. But it's the risk you take sometimes when you have children. You don't ever know if you're going to have a healthy child. 90% of these syndromes are such a fluke coincidence that you don't know. No matter what, you can get tested all you want and still end up with a child that has Down syndrome or still have a child with DiGeorge syndrome. There's no guarantee for a healthy baby. So if you're going to have a baby, you're taking that risk.
Exactly. And, because a lot of the mental illnesses that I've studied so far, except for DeGeorge, they have no way of preventing any of it, no way of testing for it. There's no way to test, to know ahead of time for any of the other mental illnesses.
And
It's a chance every parent takes. But we're not the ones that should say, well, I don't want to have a baby because they may have this or that. But what if they don't? You know?
and Sandy, I see your question up there. My son is 11 years old now. He was diagnosed at 3 years old. He was not diagnosed at birth. I fought with doctors for 3 years saying something wasn't right. Um, he was very slow to develop. He didn't gain a lot of weight. He wasn't growing. He honestly stayed in size newborn diapers for the first 6 months of his life. That tells you how slow he grew. Because everyone knows newborn diapers don't last long. He wore newborn clothes for I think the first 8 months of his life. He did not grow fast. He wasn't talking. He wasn't babbling. He wasn't doing anything that a baby should have been doing. And he was slow to develop. So they kept telling me, "Oh, he's slow to develop. He's a boy, so he's slow to develop," because they always use that he's a boy. Boys are slower than the girls to develop as infants. They would say, "Hey, he's not talking because he might have autism at one point." They had all these excuses, but they never went further into it to actually look into what the problem was. And the only reason he got diagnosed, I'll actually go into that. He went into the doctor near death. He was on death's doorstep, basically. He couldn't breathe. And we got into the hospital, the second hospital, after being released the first time, saying he's got croup. They actually did a test. They saw he had RSV. So they did admit him to stay in the hospital. And they also did a CT scan because when they were checking his lungs for pneumonia, they found that his aortic arch looked really, really wrong. Something didn't look right. It looked restricted. It looked messed up. So they did the CT scan and they found that he had the aortic arch, which is a heart condition that common in DiGeorge that was crushing his trachea. Like his trachea was actually being crushed. So once he got out of the hospital from the RSV, which we were in the hospital for 10 days, we had 6 weeks to wait after that. When we went to the doctor to get the heart surgery done, that doctor knew that condition is very common in DeGeorge, but a very uncommon condition. So that's the only reason he tested for DeGeorge is because he thought there was a chance of DeGeorge. If he wouldn't have tested for DeGeorge, who knows when we would have ever gotten that answer if we ever did. So it was just a fluke chance he got tested. It really was. It was a fluke chance. Nero, you like this information? I got into this on Maniac one day because I got up on panel and everyone seems to like hearing about it.
It's good that people get informed about these different things because, you know, the mental health community, like when I did interview Maniac, to try to break the stigma, they're bringing them more out into the community. So awareness is the only way we're going to, in education, is the only way we're going to break the stigma. Because like you said, right now, the stigma of anything associated with mental health is basically like, stay away from me, you know, like they're an alien or something.
Yeah,
And
it's not something you can catch.
exactly. And, you know, people are, they just don't want to deal with it. And I know it's an unpopular subject, but it's one that we all need to be educated on and more awareness brought to it because there's more, they're showing more and more mental health problems than when we grew up. Like when I grew up, um, I was just told I had a learning disability, period. And they just associated that with my eyesight because I was wearing glasses at 2, and that's only because that's the youngest age they could put glasses on. You can't put glasses on a baby. But I remember, you know, before I had you know, when I was like maybe 5, going in front of the TV and having to sit like right on top of it and going through that. And like I said, I grew up with learning disabilities. With my speech was delayed. Um, I couldn't say certain symbols like my S sounds or um, my TH sounds. I couldn't say them. I couldn't even say the word cookie. I got a nickname from my sister of googie because every time I said I wanted a cookie, I would say I want a googie. I could not say cookie. And I went to regular school with it. Um, like I said, I was in special ed all the way in elementary school where I was put in a special class. It was at that time mixed special ed. It had people in there that had autism and other types of learning disabilities. When we grew up, there was no ADHD. It wasn't any of a lot of the things that there are now. So, growing up like that, we don't even know as an adult if we have any of these things that the kids a lot have now because they didn't have them diagnosed back then. So, yeah, that's why education and, is so important on all these things. And one thing I like to say to anybody that has friends that special needs or a family member, besides what Krystal said, and the fact of trying to understand is be involved. If you're the parent or a family member, be involved, be informed about it, go to the doctors, ask questions, because the more involved, the more you can help. Don't push the family or that person aside, even if it's your friend, because a lot of times we don't understand that these people, somebody with DiGeorge or any other type of illness, you know, they just want to be loved and accepted like everybody else. And when they get pushed aside, they hurt more than what we would. What is like a little anthill to us is like a mountain to them. And it's more devastating to them.
I can say too, as a parent, don't use Google Doctors when you're doing the diagnosis phases. Google Doctors will make you think your child's dying.
Exactly. But make sure you get informed, go to their therapy if it's a family member. Like Krystal said, advocate for your child or your friend or anybody. Be informative and educated on it is the best way you can help.
I was gonna say too, Sandy, you said I'm surprised they wouldn't test him. And in the end, the doctors did not know, like regular doctors that you go to, like your pediatric doctors, they're getting more informed now. They're starting to actually learn more about some of these syndromes now because they're becoming more and more prevalent. They're getting diagnosed at earlier stages. But at that time, the doctors didn't know what he had going on. They thought he was just slow to develop. He thought he was just a sicker baby. They really didn't think anything of it. I should have, in hindsight, went to a specialty center, like a children's hospital, but I just never did. I went to my doctor thinking that was the best bet. But if you ever have a child that's sicker and you're really questioning things, you're better off going to a children's hospital because they tend to know a lot more about these different syndromes because they deal with them on a daily basis. They have more of these specialty type things coming in on a regular basis. They don't have just the regular cold, the regular shots. They're actually dealing with the deeper, more in-depth medical end of things. So they tend to know a lot more than a regular pediatrician will know. So on hindsight, I should have went to a specialist. I should have went to a children's hospital with them and said, hey, something's not right. I want a more in-depth diagnosis. And essentially, it was a children's hospital that diagnosed him because the heart specialist was out of a children's hospital. It was just the pediatricians were not well versed. His doctor now is getting better with DeGeorge, but it took years of me doing the research for him and telling him this is what needs to happen. And luckily, I had a doctor that was willing to listen to what I was saying, and he would do the research, but he actually would do what I asked. He would send in for the tests that I asked. So I didn't have to worry about the things not getting taken care of because he didn't have the knowledge behind himself. You're in Chicago. I'm in Indiana. We go to Riley's, though. Usually Riley's, but we have gone to Christ Children's. Christ Children's is a very good doctor, and Dr. Gornini was his first specialist he saw, and Dr. Sun was his heart specialist. So we've got doctors out of Christ Children's, and we also go to Riley's. But the specialists are definitely the better place to go. If you have something, like your child has something that you really question, you're better off paying the extra money and going to the specialist, going to the children's hospitals. They are more well-versed at that type of stuff. They really are. Hindsight 20.
Yeah, when my youngest was born, before they even released her from their regular hospital, we had to go to a children's hospital. Because when she was born, she was a month early, and when she was born, she was 5 pounds, 7 ounces. But when she left the hospital, and that's including the children's hospital, she was only 5 pounds, like 18 inches long. So she was the size of a Cabbage Patch doll.
I wore Cabbage Patch doll clothes when I came home.
And to this day, she's still small. She's only like 4'11". She was told that she has learning disabilities. But yes, and even then they tested with her, and when I went, they thought that she may need a blood transfusion. So I went with her because she has my blood. So this way, it would be easier. Luckily, she didn't, but she did have problems when she was born. She had her reflex muscle. It's like the little flap we have in our throat. Hers wasn't fully developed when she was born, so it sounded like she was having an asthma attack all the time. I don't think that ever fully corrected itself because she still has a hard time eating. When she's on her medication, she has to crush her pills because she has a hard time swallowing. She had triple hernia, 3 hernias, and one of them, of course, was in the belly button. They didn't worry about that, but they had to do the surgery to remove the other 2 hernias. And she had a lot of problems when she was born. So yeah, and they tested, um, and that's when they found out that she has, and a lot of people don't hear about this either. I think it's called myopia. It's when the baby's head is smaller than what it should be, and they said that that's what she had, and they said they got that from her because according to them, my head is too small. And I looked at them and it's like, well, to me, I think my head is appropriate size for my body, but I guess, they go by the circumference of the head and it's smaller than what it should be. And that's it, like you said, it's another genetic hereditary thing, and it got passed down to my kids. Is there any other questions that anybody has in here for Krystal dealing with DiGeorge? I guess you answered everybody's question. That is awesome.
Bossy, my girl.
I hate how this is delayed. I can't even. You must be watching also on the YouTube side.
Yeah, I got the YouTube chat popped out. My bossy girl. Girl power forever.
Ah, there she is. Hello, Bossy.
I didn't slap you today, Bossy. We're just going to give you a hug. I don't have any questions at this moment. Give me about 10 minutes, right, Sharpshooter?
Sharpshooter is very good. He is one of my most faithful subscribers I have. He watches every single one of my videos to the end and puts a good comment on it. I will
Bossy
show
girl.
him out to the moon and back.
Bossy girl. Imagine me. Imagine me. I felt that one too. I did. I let you lead me to the answers there, though, because I wasn't going to just pour them out.
So, Krystal, I'm not trying to get off the subject, but let's talk a little fun since nobody has any questions. I understand you are doing your noodle challenge again tomorrow.
You call that fun?
Yeah, it's going to be fun watching you, especially you, because you're putting what, that Reaper pepper on it?
Yes, I'm putting the Reaper pepper on it.
So, for everyone else, it's going to be like a walk in the park, but you're the one that's going to get hurting the most. I feel bad for your stomach.
See, this one went pretty well today.
Yeah, you did real good on that. You did what? I watched up to like 10 minutes.
I did 20 minutes, 25 seconds.
And I've seen a lot of people do that challenge, but they didn't do it like you did. They actually did it like everything spicy and kind of moved it all around in their mouth and swallowed the juices and ended up in the hospital right after.
It doesn't state that you got to move it. It doesn't state that you got to swallow. So I did swallow a lot of it, though, but a lot of drool because of where it was sitting. That's like I couldn't close my mouth fully.
Yeah, it must have numbed that side of the mouth pretty good.
My cheek was good and numb, but my chin hurt like no other. But, Bossy, yes, I agree. Full on. Laid flat. Throttled.
And guys, I'm sure this isn't going to be the last that Krystal does the challenges. I'm sure that she's going to open mouth insert foot as always again for more challenges.
Yeah. The spicy noodle challenge I did do once. It was rough. This one's going to be rougher. The stuff that's in the dryer now needs to get brought up, so bring that up to start with. What doesn't kill you only makes you stronger. I had all eds, right, Bossy? I had all eds. That's true for life. And the challenges, and life. And Eileen.
Hey, Minnie R5.
She's like, I didn't even pay attention. I just heard Bossy's name mentioned.
The cat's sitting on my head. Literally.
You
get your butt off my head.
She's got the cat. I got the dog all up my butt.
Hey, at least you didn't have a cat's butt on your head.
Bossy says, hey, beautiful Autumn.
My hair is a messy mess.
Well, just think, Krystal, when everybody calls her beautiful, that complimenting you at the same time.
Well, I already know how Bossy feels. Why are you blowing in my face?
Because she's being silly, as always.
If you want to, it's easy to do the dryer. Take the stuff out of the dryer, bring it up.
Okay.
And then I'll go to the next step. She's learning how to do laundry.
Yeah.
Fun.
So I could do my own clothes so I don't have to wait for you. Because you lazy.
I'm not lazy.
You take a long time and you like work way too much.
Well, you should be learning because
Okay, she just called me lazy and in the same sentence said I work too much.
Yeah, 'cause when you're home.
that's an oxymoron.
I'm lazy, but I work too much.
Work
That's
too much and you're lazy when you're home.
Well, that works too much.
this is my downtime. Really?
The chair.
Hey, I don't like doing laundry. I'd rather do that than dishes, but
Where's this thingy?
come baby.
Why is
Okay.
this not it? That's not it.
Come here, dog.
Ew, where is it?
Oh, is it sky cam time?
No, it's baby Cam. She's like all up my butt, but she won't actually come here.
Let's
It's
go.
because she's getting old and that's too much for her.
There.
You're a lap dog. You're way too big to be a lap dog.
There, you got baby Cam.
Oh, the pretty babies.
She's just like, why am I on your lap?
She's like, they put me down.
This is the 11-year-old almost. She looks like you. I look like a dog now. Oh man, I don't think I'm so beautiful anymore there, boss.
Uh-huh.
Now, at least her leg is better.
Oh no, this is the one that's never had a bad leg. It's the husky that's had the bad leg. This is the one that's had cancer, has a heart murmur, and is old.
Oh, Mom.
Well, maybe she had doggy DiGeorge.
She's almost 11 years old.
Mom, tomorrow in the morning I'm going to go for a bike ride.
Okay. Oh, baby. Let me get that. Oh.
Now you're going to be full of dog hair.
Yep, full of dog hair.
On top of all the drool you got on your shirt earlier.
Yeah, I still got the stain. It might wash out. We'll see.
What's stain?
Miss Bossy, would you like to come up?
That was hilarious watching you. That was hilarious watching you do it.
She popped in on her lunch hour to watch me drool on
I
myself.
was on my iPad because my phone didn't have any internet. So that's why I didn't comment.
She popped in on her lunchtime and she said, I came into you drooling.
Yeah. It was just going. It was just drooling all the way down.
Yeah, she should have put a bib on her shirt.
Half the time I didn't even know I was drooling. My chin had kind of gotten a little bit overheated and numb. So I didn't even realize I was drooling. So she said she would love to, but she can't right now. It's the prime of the day right now for Bossy. She's running around. Right? It's Saturday morning for you right now, isn't it, boss? I think, yeah. Early morning Saturday. Dirty diapers currently got a clean diaper. That's a good thing.
By the way, Krystal, in case you didn't read my answer to your comment, you have now been entered into the drawing to get more of my merch.
Yeah, I know. I could have told you that. My child. She's got issues.
But right now, I don't know when that's going to happen because it's kind of like you. Getting to that 2,000 mark, like when you were trying to get to that 3,000 mark, you get up there and then you go down, then you get up and then you go down.
It'll come when it comes.
Yeah, when I get it. I know Maniac bought my pillow. I gotta get Gil a hoodie. He wants a hoodie. I told him I'd get him a hoodie next month for a belated birthday gift. Because his birthday is the 23rd of this month.
I sent him his gift.
No, that's your gift because you were supposed to do it with when you reach 3,000.
That's his
You
chance
just
to.
told him.
That's his chance to defeat me. Okay.
Well, now that you're putting that Reaper in it, it might not be that hard to beat you.
I've already said this. I'm giving them the easy way out. They just gotta eat the noodles more than I do, and I'm eating Reaper with mine. So who knows?
I think Stuy's going to beat you both. I mean, for every challenge that, even that, with you and Gil, when you did just like the candy, but with this challenge, it was kind of hard for you guys. And then when you did the hardest candy bar, I really thought he was going to have a problem after watching you two do it. And it's like, don't do it, Sty, because he does have a bad ticker.
The chili pop and mud pie bar didn't bother me at all. That one, it had a nice kick to it, but it tasted good. It wasn't bad. I just didn't eat the one square that Gil ate because I had to get Haley to get cold water because water is known to cause the heat to get worse. So that's why Andy had cold water is because he wanted me to drink the cold water and make the heat worse. But Haley wouldn't go get it unless I gave her a piece.
Yeah, the first candy bar wasn't bad. The second one, though, did you win?
The second one sucked. It wasn't, and I like I said, it wasn't fully the heat. The heat sucked. It was the taste. The taste got me worse than anything.
Too bad you couldn't just take some like chocolate syrup and poured it on it, and then took a bite so you'd have that chocolate flavor.
See, but then I also ate a 7-pot slimmer and a Naga pepper full on Everything Spicy's channel.
Yeah.
And those were worse than any of these challenges we've done.
Oh, yeah, the real peppers are, because with the candy bars or the noodles or anything, it's just the extract. But with the peppers, it's the seed. So when you're actually eating a pepper, you're eating the seeds, which carries more heat than any of the extract.
The extract just tasted nasty.
Yeah, it normally does. I'm waiting for Andy K to get cute and send you that paste that he's been talking about.
Oh, he's talking about it. Everything Spicy today told me that the next challenge he'd like to see me do is that Packy 1 chip challenge.
Well, if it's 1 chip, it shouldn't be too bad.
I want to get the final course bar.
Your stomach is going to hate you later for all of this. You know that, right?
I want to get the final course bar infused with the Reapers. The Moab looks pretty good, but I'm not sure I'd like it. It's a pretty big bar with a lot of hot stuff. But it does look good. I'm annoying my dog now.
I have to close the door for mine to stay out. Mine is worse than all 3 of your dogs in Gil Sky put together.
Well, my 2 are staring at me through the window right now.
I sent E-Waste Mike a picture of what I go through when I lie down at night.
Now take all the stuff out of the washer, put it in the dryer.
Okay.
Close the washer, Autumn. Close the washer. Move that the basket over. Pull that little thing that pulls out. Get the lint. Put it in the garbage can, like the garbage bag in there. Then you turn the knob to 60 and hit start. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, put them in the dryer. That's the easy part. It's when you gotta fold them. That's the part I don't like.
That's why there's like 4 baskets around my house.
Yeah. And that sounds like me. When I can wash clothes and dry them. When they're out of the dryer, put them in the basket. And then when I need them, I pull them out of the basket. So what's your plans for the rest of the night?
I need to edit that live stream from earlier because I want to release that as a video instead of the live stream. So it's just the challenge. I've got to do a couple thumbnails and tags, descriptions, and all that. And I got to work on comments. I think that's what most of my night's going to consist of. But knowing me, I'll end up on someone's panel at some point.
I put the YouTube studio app on my phone, and I find it helps keep me up with the comments more than the way I was doing it before between my tablet and the computer.
I used to do that, but the problem is I don't. I like to visit the channels that are coming to me, and if I'm doing it off my phone, I can't do that.
Oh.
What do I do after I close it?
Move the thing off so you can get to the lint trap. There's a little thing with the handle on it that's in the top of the dryer. Pull that out, get the lint out, throw that in the bag, turn to 60, hit start. Or more dry, hit start. Either one of them works. We didn't have Taekwondo tonight, which I didn't realize until tonight.
That's okay, because I think we would have had a lot more people, but a lot of people were still live because it's Friday. Summer's over, so more people are going live now. Well, if nobody has anything else to say, I think I'm going to close this stream so Krystal can do her editing. I know how much fun that is. It can be a couple of hours to get done what she has, and when she does it late at night, because I'm always talking to her, I know the boo-boos that she always does, and she don't catch it until it's too late and go, oops.
This is a straightforward edit. I just got to cut the beginning and cut the end, basically.
So 60 and start?
Yes, yes, and yes.
That's the worst part. I've had people ask me to do a tutorial on editing, and the only one I can do is the one like on Windows Editor. As far as cut in and stuff like that, I still can't do that. I can cut it from the beginning, but then when I try to cut it at the end, it messes up.
Mike really went up on the editing on these next couple videos coming out.
She's still there.
He figured out a lot of stuff and started and implemented them into the editing. So these next couple videos should be really good.
I don't know why, but Haley likes.
And we got the next one coming out is part of a 3-part series.
Mom.
All right, well, everyone, thank you for coming for the interview with Krystal on DiGeorge syndrome, and I hope to see you back to check out anything else on my channel, and don't forget to check out Krystal's channel, which is R5 Adventures. And for those that may not know, she does have a second channel devoted directly towards special needs. Krystal, if you want to talk about that before we go?
If anyone is interested, and I'm basically saying with that channel, if you're interested, don't just subscribe just because you feel obligated to. But it's called Mrs. R5. It's just the MRS for Mrs. and then R5 is the second word. It's a channel about DiGeorge syndrome, about special needs. I have not posted anything in about 3 weeks because I've been just kind of swamped and unable to really edit or shoot anything for it. But there is going to be more videos coming out, and that channel is dedicated to special needs. Basically, everything that gets put up there is in reference to special needs or DiGeorge syndrome.
Okay, so as I said, thank you all for coming to the interview. I hope that it helped everybody get more of an understanding on DiGeorge and any other special needs. And don't forget to hit the like button on the way out if you haven't hit it yet. And share this. Well, it's too late to share out now, but we hope to see you.
Feel free to share it so others will watch it.
Yeah, because it will get posted right after this, well, after I do my editing as well. So until I see you again, remember, see with your heart and not your eyes. And everybody have a great day. Bye.
Good night, everyone.